Welcome back to the Jared and James channel. I'm Jared Weiss. If you guys don't know that, must mean that you're not subscribed to the channel, so you know what to do. Smash that subscribe button, be sure to leave a like, drop a comment, let me know what you guys think of this video. Follow me on every platform. So anyways, for today's video, we're actually back with my friend, my naturopath, Victor Cozzetto. For today's video, we're gonna be diving deep into what the best diet is, and we're gonna be talking about like plenty of the misconceptions there. Like when it comes to diet, we're gonna be getting into misconceptions when it comes to like animal products. We're gonna be talking about Weston A price. I'm also gonna be talking about misconceptions when it comes to gluten and lactose intolerance. Like like what actually causes those things, like especially in today's modern world. So it's going to be a very interesting video, like for anyone who's been following any of the diet zealotry that's out there. For anyone who wants to know what the actual best diet is, as well as like what the actual natural human diet like actually consists of, like in order for humans to thrive, and like for all of us like to have like better relationships with our food, as well as understanding the like diet like actually also goes beyond food. So to get this thing started, my first question for you is, who is Weston A price, and also like what are some of the things like that he actually discovered throughout like his work?
Yeah, Dr. Weston A. Price is a great starting point.
Mm-hmm.
So he was a dentist in the US. He's actually Canadian,
Really?
but yeah, he's
True.
actually born in Canada, but he practiced dentistry in Ohio in the US. And he was, we could say, the preeminent dentist. He actually created the research arm of dentistry at that time, which is now still part of the American Dental Association. And so he was really groundbreaking. He also established the X-ray processes that became standard use in dentistry. Okay, so this guy was really at the forefront of research and technology over 100 years ago.
Right. Wait. What years was Weston A price like actually around? Also.
Um, so you, so I love to use the reference point of 1939,
Mm-hmm.
which is the publication date of his book, Nutrition and Physical Degeneration, and that book is the holy grail of nutrition,
Right.
of how to eat. Now that was published in 1939 after 10 years in the field, traveling around the world with his wife, doing research for that book, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that brings you back now into the 1920s. And so you go, basically, his work is starting from the late 1800s, right? Up
Right.
until the early 1900s. And so he observed what is so obvious, what should be so obvious to everyone. As a dentist, he started to realize, he's like, wait, why do only humans have no space in their mouth for teeth? Why are the teeth crooked? And why do we have cavities? We simply don't see this among any other creatures in the planet,
Right.
right? So it's a crazy thing. So in order to investigate that, he traveled the world and looked for indigenous, isolated people
Mm-hmm.
that were not touched by modern man. So he assumed that it was actually our modern diets.
So,
And
wait, so like just to clarify, like his like original hypothesis was actually to like discover why modern cultures like had so many dental issues, right?
right, or we could reverse it. Why were the indigenous people
So
immune?
healthy,
Right. Why didn't
right?
they have dental issues? Right. And it went way beyond that. So, for example, he found their immunity was much better than ours. So, at that period in time, tuberculosis or TB was devastating, but those isolated cultures were basically immune to it.
Right.
Right. Again, he traveled like to every corner of the world, the Eskimos, up in Alaska, the American Indians along throughout the US, people on the Pacific Islands, right? Europeans, the like not Scottish, well, yeah, Scottish too, up in there, up in the mountains, the Swiss Alps, all over the place.
Mm.
Right, all over the place, and he found the same things very consistently. If they were truly isolated, right, they had basically straight teeth, all of their teeth, right, so they're not pulling out wisdom teeth and things like that, right,
Right.
no cavities.
Interesting.
And also this meant broader jaws, better bone structure,
Mm.
much more robust than us,
Mm.
so just stronger, better endurance, etc. So in like just about every measure of health that you can take at that time, he could see that they were basically physically superior to us. Now, of course, there were different issues. Now, they lived in harsh environments, right?
Right.
So they were, again, whether you're an Eskimo or you're living up in the mountains, they have a much more active lifestyle, which contributes, right? So it goes beyond diet. But what was amazing that no matter where he went, he noticed that especially the fat soluble vitamins were about 10 times greater than what we consume.
Mm.
And they found different ways to get those, whether
So,
it was from dairy or blubber
oh,
or
right, right. So, I was actually just about to ask you, like, what were some of the classic sources of like these fat soluble vitamins?
right. So they were all different. So, and actually, this is going to lead to the basic premise or your basic question, like what is the best diet?
Right.
There is no best diet.
Mhm.
However, there is very, not strict, but there is very, very powerful dietary guidance.
Principles, right?
Right, right. And so, again, they all had different diets, but they were getting the same nutrients in the same quantities. So the fat solubles, A, D, K2, and E, those can be found in dairy,
Mm-hmm.
or in like animal fats, seafood, right? The fats, fatty fish,
Mm-hmm.
right? So now you can't get those from a vegan or vegetarian diet, and to his dismay, because one of his motivations was he thought he was going to find a vegan or
Really?
vegetarian culture. He thought that was going to be the answer.
Wow.
He In his mind, he was thinking there must be something very different, very extreme, in order to produce this kind of health. And yet there was no vegan culture, no vegetarian culture that could produce that kind of robust health.
Right.
There
So,
was none. They all consumed animal products.
right, but so like something interesting, like you actually touched on the which I am totally agree with, is like how like having the best diet, like it was actually gonna be individualized, for each person. But like having said that, there's always gonna be a set of like principles which could definitely guide everyone. But like having said that, like within those principles, there's always gonna be nuance, and there's always gonna be different foods that work best for different people. And like Weston A actually discovered this, especially because he was going all around the world.
Mhm.
So like he was actually discovering like how like every healthy tribe had something had like guidelines and like certain like nutrients like that were like common like with everyone. So like everyone needed these like in order to thrive like and
Mhm.
be healthy. But then like the main issue though, like what was actually as soon as tribes of people started adopting modern diets, and then all these like health issues like started to ensue.
Yes.
And like having said that, as like we're actually going to talk about in a little bit, there's definitely more to health that goes beyond just the food. But like having said that, like the food is obviously a major portion
Mhm.
that like contributes like to our health. Like I would honestly say, like when it comes to any type of healing journey, or more when it comes to any type of like health path, like that someone's on, the food like is actually always going to be this like foundational component. If like, your nutrition like is like out of order, and then like basically anything like you put on top of that, like it just like isn't going to be like nearly as effective.
Right, right, exactly. So here's something to consider. These other things like lots of sunshine,
Right.
being grounded, right? Lots of
Mhm.
activity. What is amazing, astounding, so to really give you a picture of the impact of nutrition, Dr. Price showed, and he with photographic evidence, you could take a sibling, a family member from a healthy tribe that was exposed to modern foods, and their health would dramatically decline. Tooth decay, right? They would immediately see problems. So even with many other good factors still in place, when they went to an extremely different diet,
Really.
their health degenerated. And
That-
then you really see that in
Very
the next
interesting.
generation.
Right.
This is very sad because we
Mhm.
unfortunately we pass it on to the next generation. And you can add on top of that. So another kind of unseen thing is the biome, right? Like your gut biome, right? So when you change diet, right, it's not just about the nutrients and the vitamins, but the biome is going to change. And then, for example, when we talk about the next generation, if a woman has changed her biome, she passes that biome on to her child.
Right.
So, right. So now that child is born with a weakened biome. And that has many ramifications because that affects the ability to absorb, the ability to detox, that your biome produces nutrients on its own, right?
Hmm.
So they're right. There are many, many factors, and it's kind of a cascading effect that starts with
Right.
the nutrition and not just the nutrient density of the nutrition. It's so important, but also the cleanliness,
Right.
right? Because toxic overload is devastating.
Yeah, well, like honestly, know that like like have learned that like through firsthand experience, like better than like just about like anyone out there.
Mm.
So it's like one of my questions is what are some of the modern principles and like started like to be adopted by these perfectly healthy tribes like that ends up like ruining their health. Yeah.
So the big one, the big or the big two big ones, if we can go way, way back like hundreds of years,
Hmm.
sugar and white flour.
Hmm.
Processed sugar and processed flour. These are actually very old things, right? The sugar is even older, right? And that's incredibly addictive, right? And so like that was a dramatic negative impact on the American Indians when the Europeans first came. So, we like to tell this fib that we brought disease and the disease killed the Indians. No, the Indians would have been immune to the diseases.
Hmm.
First, what happened was the trade and the sugar, right? And
Right.
now the immune system becomes weakened, and now you're much more vulnerable to disease.
And then also like taking things like a step further, like both of us like also like happen to be like very strong believers like when it comes to terrain theory like of disease. Like I actually fully agree with you. Like there's actually a huge misconception like when it comes to
Mm,
this idea like that like we actually brought disease
right.
to the native peoples. And like chances are like what like we actually brought like was actually these modern lifestyle factors like
Yes.
which actually mess with people's like terrains, and then therefore
Mm,
their body has to like produce like disease like as its way of like detoxing them like
yeah.
healing.
Yes. Right. Yeah, yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I mean, right, there's so many examples of that. And right, the only disease is lifestyle,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
You could,
Yeah.
yeah. So I like to say that
100%.
sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So and it's so true because right, it has such a huge domino effect.
Mhm.
And basically, there are so many, if we want to use the word pathogens, parasites, et cetera, they're everywhere, countless. We don't understand most of them, and
Right.
yet we don't die.
Right,
Yeah.
and also like a lot of like the research like that I've actually been looking to like has actually shown me like like any of these other living things like whether it be like bacteria like parasites like all these things like are actually designed like to like help us like to cleanse our bodies like to detox
Right.
like like even though like we're probably not able like, to get like too far into this like on YouTube, but like when it comes to viruses like have never been isolated. I mean, like I'm showing like the cause
Mhm.
like disease, and also like taking it a step further. I mean, it almost like comes back to like why would you blame the firefighters like for causing the fire? So like
Right.
I actually fully believe like any of these microscopic particles like that like are out there like are actually part of the cleanup crew like and like are actually part of like what's actually helping us like to like heal like and like detox the body, but then like we end up blaming them. We end up
Right.
we end up taking antibiotics, and especially when like the word itself like antibiotic like, essentially means like anti-life. So,
Right. Right. It's
like
hysterical.
yeah, I mean, like our bodies like are actually made up of all these like microscopic living things.
Mm.
So like it's just like so crazy, especially because like if you're killing them, all these things like that actually make up your life. Like then it's just like what ends up
Mm.
happening to you, like your gut health, like everything against like getting destroyed. Like when you're actually focused on like killing, cutting, like
Right.
whatever else the whole Rockefeller medicine like industry like created.
Right. Right. Yeah. It's absolutely the wrong way to approach things because you're right.
Mhm.
We're a walking rainforest,
Right.
and diversity is power.
Hmm.
Diversity is strength. And it's when we lose that diversity that we become vulnerable. And yeah, absolutely. I mean, the most classic example, which is so common, is candida,
Right.
candida overgrowth. That candida is eating up there's two things
Heavy
that
metals,
it's
right?
responding to: too much sugar and then too many heavy metals,
Right.
right?
Then like the whole like modern healthcare like it's all about like killing everything like and like just like suppressing the symptoms but then like what ends up happening like
Right.
is like you end up I'm pretty sure like I heard like someone like say this recently, which is that like every time like you start like suppressing symptoms like you're essentially trading acute illness like from chronic disease.
Yeah, right, right. It's not a good trade.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Right,
It's definitely
right,
not worth it. Like I'm in the long run,
right.
and so like one of the amazing things that like I've actually learned from you like has been like it says like when it comes like it's like helping the body along like basically mimicking whatever the body's trying to do, but by actually using the powers of nature like and like the powers of like
Mhm.
natural tools like in order like to like help the body do what it's trying to do as opposed like to like suppressing the body's like natural healing responses.
Right, right. Or even for us using our technology to try to make decisions about what to attack or not to attack, right?
Right.
Even when with natural things, right? So
Mhm.
as you know, I love shamanism. I love plant medicine, but you've got all these gurus out there that are not shamans, but it's great to just keep selling those supplements
Right.
of these plant medicines to attack, kill,
Mhm.
destroy, and that's
Right.
all wrong, right?
Right.
So I mean, actually, right. So you've been with me for several years, and you've
Right.
seen so many people are using that approach, and then I'm like, no, no, just kefir and like PBX, right? Just
Mhm.
detox, get that, and then you will eventually get rid of it for good. The
Right.
core, the root
Mhm.
cause.
Right. So it's
Yeah.
like one of the best things like when it comes to your approach like to healing has been like you're not into like giving like 100 different like supplements,
Right.
but like everything like you do give like is basically everything like is all like targeted like so like everything like has like a specific purpose.
Mm,
And like having said that, like you're also like I'm all about getting in touch like nature as well. Like
right.
like everything like you recommend like I am take like as far as like supplement wise like it all like has like a designated like approach that like that approach like is always going to be in line with like the body's natural principles. That's never going to be going against it like and like trying to kill like through like herbs or whatever
Right, right.
everything that like you recommend like is all like designed like to work with the body like as opposed to going against it.
Right, right. Without you're right, going against it or trying to override it or trying
Right.
to think we're smarter than nature.
Mm.
Right, exactly. So and there are so many tools, right? And it's so I really like to try to stay rooted in the very very old kind of ancient traditional wise traditions because
Mm.
there's a lot of foolish
Mm.
traditions. There are a lot of tribes that did not survive, that were not so strong. So I think a key word is we want to be robust. We want to not just survive but thrive,
Right.
right? So the human body is designed to survive. So it can survive a very long time on a really bad diet in a really toxic world. We're very hard to kill. We're actually quite durable. We don't have the kind of physical durability to like in physical combat,
Right.
against felines, or other species. But we are a very robust species. And of course, traditional man was and still is, you could still go find some natives across the world that are mind boggling how powerful they are.
Mm.
I know we like to brag about our modern athletes and such, but they're nothing compared to what we can still find in the it's hard to say indigenous world, right? It's very
Right.
hard to find isolated peoples nowadays, but there are still some out there. And you can find them on the internet. You can see other people, even like high celebrity status, like Joe Rogan. You can find him interviewing people and showing things that will blow your mind
Right.
and how powerful a human can be. Our
Mm.
potential is incredible.
Like no matter how hard they try like reduce us down, like try to poison us and like kill us. But like when you actually think about it, the fact the fact like humans have like being able to like survive like so much of this poisoning is actually a testament like showing how powerful like we actually are.
Yeah, yeah, it really is. It's incredible because right, we've been watching a very severe degeneration,
Mm.
but we're still here because there are always pockets of humanity that do it the right way,
Right.
right? And so they continue to thrive. Like even within families, you get the same thing. Some eat more junk food than others,
Mhm.
right? And so some are going to live longer than others, and everything it's only statistic, right? Statistics. It's
Right.
only probability. You could do everything right and
Uh,
still, like I said, I can get hit by a bus tomorrow,
right.
but
Yeah.
right now, I mean, so there is a very high statistic probability that I will continue to thrive because at this point I'm 59 years old and I'm not going anywhere.
Hmm.
I don't have any issues and I'm not even living my healthiest life yet. I fully expect I will be much more powerful 10 years from now than I
Hmm.
am right now.
That's amazing. I love
Right.
to hear
So
that.
yeah, I don't see any kind of decline
Mhm.
anywhere in my near, not even in my distant
Mhm.
future.
Yeah, yeah. Like one of the main issues, like when it comes to like our current society, is like so many people have actually accepted this idea, when it comes to like aging, like actually meaning like you have to be declining,
Right.
like actually come down to lifestyle like factors.
Exactly.
So it's like everyone like wants like blame aging for why they don't like move as well like as it did 10 years ago. Like
Right.
chances are these people have been sedentary, don't get out in
Yep.
nature, don't detox. I'm saying as a result, those people are gonna end up looking worse 10 years from now, and they're gonna be feeling worse 10 years from now. And then like 20 years from now. So it's just
Right.
this whole modern society has pushed this idea for so long aging has to mean declining. I've been seeing countless examples of people who've been getting better with time
Oh yeah.
you always see plenty of videos that come up of people who are 80 years old who are deadlifting 400 pounds.
Yep. Yep.
It's just so rare especially because everyone is just settled and accepted mediocrity.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And it's kind of the brainwashing, right? The programming.
Right.
That's always
Yeah,
going on.
one thing that I wanted to add to this, like, so like when you think about it, like, how many commercials like are there like for like the elderly people, showing them taking medicines, they're taking countless pharmaceuticals, like, or I'm
Right.
needing or I'm needing hip replacements,
Right.
so it's like all that like is basically showing is showing people like this is like the way like it has to be, quote unquote.
Right. Right. Exactly. They want you to believe it has to be that
Mhm.
way. But yeah, people just need to look to the examples. Like you said, there's people in their 80s
Right.
that, oh my God, I
Thriving.
wish I looked that good now.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Unbelievable, right?
Right.
They're so active. And now, there's something we should mention too, because there are a lot of people that do everything right and still have bad results.
Mm-hmm.
And I give you, and actually, this is even a caution to you.
Mm-hmm.
Exercise is one of the most amazing, most powerful things we can do, or just being active, right?
Mm-hmm.
So exercise is basically a substitute for the lack of activity in the modern world.
Right.
But for example, a lot of people that do running and such, running on a hard
Overdo
surface,
it.
yeah, too much running on a hard
Mm.
surface is going on a hard surface. So if you're not on grass, so you're always playing basketball on the blacktop, right, on
Right.
concrete. Over time, right, the constant pounding. Again, we weren't designed to run on that kind of surface.
But like having said, like, would you also like say like maybe it's possible like for my body's like it's like
To
adapt to
recover.
this, like it's like recover and like adapt to these like harsher conditions.
You could say that, but like the scientific research will show us that that's not true. Like if we look at all of our top athletes and we look at the current history that we have data on, which is many decades already. You can look in examples for, let's say, like look at like baseball and football when it went to artificial turf.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So
Yeah.
many devastating
Yeah.
injuries, right?
Injuries.
And
Yeah.
these are people that are extremely strong. They, now, a lot of those athletes get injured simply because they don't have a good diet,
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
right? So this is,
I've
yeah,
seen like plenty of these athletes like eating candy
yeah,
or eating whatever.
right,
Right.
absolutely. So it is. So what I'm saying is not necessarily conclusive because
Right.
if you're eating everything, maybe your body has the ability maybe to continuously
Mm-hmm.
repair itself against the
Mm-hmm.
damage. Like that's the body is designed to do that.
To
So as
adapt.
long as the right, as long as the nutrients are coming in and they're not being blocked by toxins,
Mm-hmm.
it's always repairing itself.
Right.
But the key is like sometimes there are thresholds for everything.
Right. Yes.
And so it could be that like a lot of people just exercise too much,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well,
right?
I'm actually used to be like one of these people. It's like I'm actually used to be someone like who basically like used to like would like always like push beyond my limits, but then like I would end up like getting hurt for it, and so like over time like I started like to
Right.
learn like how to listen to my body better, and as opposed like it's like overriding my body's signals, I guess you'd say.
Right. So you got to be a little bit more in tune with the body.
Mhm.
And that's a tricky thing because right, when we're looking at like elite performers, they're trying to find their limits,
Right.
right? So you're trying to find what is your limit. So and it's okay to push up, but you
Mhm.
really got to be careful and then you got to think about like hey, look, in your 20s, that's
Mhm.
not so bad,
Mhm.
right? But I'm talking about people that are like still running later on in life and they're running on hard
Mhm.
surfaces. You just want to be careful. You just want to like because now there's one issue here. Like exercise is like a drug.
Mhm. Yeah.
Okay. So
Yeah.
you want to tap into your intuition and you don't want to be driven into the wrong direction by an
Mhm.
addiction,
Mhm.
right?
Right.
So I mean, as amazing as exercise is, it is also can be very addictive, like many other things. And so that can cloud your judgment.
Mhm.
So that's something that we'd want to be just a little bit careful about because, again, we're trying to mimic, right? We're trying to exercise to imitate natural activity,
Yeah.
but most people are not doing it in a natural environment, meaning
Mhm.
that, and I'm talking about especially these, like concrete floors or the
Right.
blacktop, the very hard
Right.
surfaces.
Yeah, like, that's definitely a really good point. Like, especially because like our ancestors like, probably weren't on like the surfaces like of today. But like having
Right.
said, like having said that, like as like both of us know, the body like is like incredible. Like when it comes to being able like to adapt, and like
Yeah.
like it's definitely important like to always like being listening to our bodies like when it comes to like knowing our current limits and then like being able like, to push them a little bit but like without actually going too far, right?
Right, right, exactly, exactly. Just try to tune in a little bit. And,
Yeah.
I'll mention one other thing
Hmm.
too, that's pretty important related to that. Right, if you could do activities barefoot, and you can do them on a natural surface, that
Hmm.
surface is uneven.
Hmm.
So not only are we getting the grounding, because we're
Right.
not isolated, grounding is an enormous benefit. But the idea, and now this is much more difficult on you, running on just the ground with all those uneven surfaces, right?
Hmm.
The way it massages and moves the bones and muscles in the feet and tones the muscles up of the leg, because now your entire body gets jostled in a very different way.
Hmm.
You actually get a much broader muscular development. When I say broader, I mean like a lot more of the small muscles
Right.
get stimulated.
That
And
makes sense.
yeah, so there's a huge benefit to doing workouts or exercise, or running on a natural surface, just running in the grass. That unevenness is actually a tremendous benefit.
Right. Coming back like a little bit like
Back to the
it's like
diet.
yeah, it's like segueing back to that but like it's also like actually ties into like what like me and you like we're actually just saying like when it comes to like how incredible like the body is. So like I want to play like a little bit like of like devil's advocate here. What would you say like to all these people like who claim to be like vegan for 10 years or even like frugivores like for 10 plus years? Like these people like claim to be like thriving like have no health issues. Like obviously I mean you like have also heard plenty of stories like, of people who go on these extreme diets and then like end up like deteriorating their health and then like end up reincorporating animal products or hopefully even going like Weston A price principle styles and then like end up like recovering their health. But like I really want to it's like here your take like how is it like some people like claim to be doing these like extreme diets like for like 10 plus years like with like no animal products but like somehow like they're still like able to like thrive to an extent or whatever.
Right. So, well, one of the key words there that you mentioned is claim.
Hmm.
A lot of dishonest vegans out there, they're not really vegan.
Uh-huh.
They're not at all, right? So it becomes more of a religious kind of thing.
Right.
And then it's hysterical because many times you can meet someone that says they're vegan and you get to know them, and then they talk about how, yeah, well, I have fish like once a month,
Uh-huh.
and I do this. And so, and it's hysterical. So that's the first thing, is many of them are actually not vegan at
Mm-hmm.
all. The second thing is there really is no such thing as a vegan. There is no human
Mm-hmm.
that has gone cradle to grave as a vegan.
Right.
It just doesn't happen, right? So
Mm-hmm.
you would die as a baby if you were vegan, right?
Right.
So that doesn't happen from birth. And then the average time that any vegan actually is vegan is like 7 years.
Uh-huh.
Insignificant, right? So the people that are out there saying, even the ones that are saying, "Oh my God, this like saved my life." Now, it could be that vegans served them as a detox protocol for
Interesting.
5 or 10 years, if they did it absolutely right. And
Mm-hmm.
most people don't even do it right because they just get toxic fruits and
Right.
vegetables.
Yeah. Well, like,
Yeah.
man,
Yeah.
also like plenty of vegans like also like eating fake foods, like, like,
Yes.
like,
Processed
yeah,
foods.
processed foods, like, processed
Right.
like carbohydrates and all that
Right.
stuff. But like, anyways, I'm getting back to like what you were just saying though. Like, so like I find that interesting. Like when it comes to this idea, like maybe like some of them like are using it like as like this detox protocol.
Yeah. So any diet, you've probably heard me say this before.
Hmm.
Any diet, no matter how ridiculous, no matter how terrible, no matter how dangerous,
Hmm.
will still help some people use this because
How though?
because
How does that work?
because it's simply a food restricted fast. That's all it is. It's just a
Right.
fast, right? So we have an infinite variety of food restricted fasts.
Mm-hmm.
That's all it is. And so, but the danger comes in when you take that fast too long,
Right. That
right?
makes sense.
Right. So any, look, food restricted fasts are great. Fasting
Mm.
is fantastic. And so, the idea of someone that just says, okay, I'm going to just eat pineapples, for 3 days or for a
Right.
week or whatever, right? So any kind of crazy idea can be beneficial. It's going to depend on the individual. It's going to depend on exactly which foods they choose, their current state of health, and how long they stay on that food restricted
Mm.
fast. So it does us no good. Like vegans, like I said, they don't really exist. They're statistically irrelevant.
Mm.
So any individual that has truly, truly been a vegan for more than 7 years, let's say for more than 10 years, and
Right.
is still truly healthy,
Um.
is going to be less than 1% of 1% of the human population.
Um.
For every one of those that does good, they're going to cause 100 times more, 10 times more people to fail at
Right.
attempting that.
Right, like once again, like I'm fully I'm agree with everything that you're saying, but like this is just like me, like I'm trying to play some devil's advocate. I'm just like I'm trying to like incorporate some things like other people say, especially because like so like for instance, like I actually recently met like this one guy like who actually recently came on my podcast, like he actually goes to my gym, and so like he actually does like some crazy like calisthenics workouts, like so he could do like one handstands like on top of like my Mbosu ball. Man, like he happens to be like the nicest guy. So like I might never try to talk bad like about him or anything like that. But like having said like he also like has been like a vegan like for like the past I'm not even sure like how many years. But like
Unfortunate.
yeah, I'm like having said like so like, I don't want to I'm judging too harshly, but like having said like so like how is he able to do like all the things he does like well maybe even like to take things like a step further like could there be something more to diet beyond just like the food itself?
Oh yeah, for sure. So they're like all the other factors we talked about, right? The
Mm,
and so one thing that is in favor for when someone is such a zealot,
mm,
right? And vegans tends to be that way,
right.
very myopic, but this tends to mean that they're also very disciplined.
Mm, mm,
So, one, this guy does a lot of exercise. It
mm,
almost doesn't matter what you eat,
mm,
right? So,
right.
exercise is huge.
Mm.
Okay. And then, like we talked about the other factors, like, grounding,
Detoxification,
sunlight.
grounding,
Right, right. Even
nature.
like so, right, exactly. Being out in nature, even socialization means you're
Mm,
getting a little bit more biome diversity, right? Exposure to pets, to people, right? Physical
mm,
contact.
right.
So for example, you take someone like that who's a vegan and they live in a household of meat eaters with two dogs and a cat.
Mm,
That person is picking up some of their biome is benefiting from all those other people,
interesting. Wow.
right?
That's actually
Right.
really
So
interesting.
yeah, so
Never
it's
thought
it's
about
because
that.
it's similar, like being at home with your family is like forest bathing,
Mm,
right? Going into the forest, you're picking up the stuff out there too,
mm,
right? So it is, yeah. So there are many, many factors. And then one factor that we haven't mentioned now, which trumps everything else, is the
belief.
mind, belief.
Right.
Look, if you were able to really access your true unconscious beliefs and believe that you're vegan, believe that you're a breatharian,
Mm-hmm.
then you could do it.
Interesting.
There is no limit to what we are capable of.
Mm-hmm.
So I you like there are these people that say they're
Right,
breatharians.
yeah, like well, like I've actually recently been hearing stories like when it comes to like breatharians, and like even though like a lot of that like philosophy contradicts like what I know and like what I believe, like I do find it like very interesting. Like there are people like out there like who claim to be like so high vibrational, like somehow like they're actually able to live on just air and like
Right,
whatever nutrients come from the air, I guess.
right, right, exactly. So, but most people that if I meet someone and they tell me they're a breatharian, the first thing in my mind is they're a fraud.
Right. Yeah.
Now,
Yeah.
right? Now I could be wrong, but
Like
chances are,
yeah,
right.
probably like the skeptic like within me like is probably gonna come out like especially
Yeah,
because I'm having to like my half heard stories of like people who do like prolonged fasts and whatnot, but like for someone like tell me like they don't need like any nutrients from food. Like my first thought like my man is
yeah,
like something doesn't sound right here.
right. They're basically not human anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So we could say, of course, this is another entire topic, which we did touch upon in
Right.
your last video. It's about elevating to a different level.
Yes.
You're basically taking your existence into, yeah, you've evolved into another
Mhm.
type of being, the next
Right.
stage of humanity, right?
Uh-huh.
But as we are now with 8 billion people on this planet,
Mhm.
as part of this planet, as part of its ecosystem, right? The earth looks at we're supposed to play our role. We are these omnivorous creatures,
Right.
and we evolved and are designed to thrive on an omnivorous diet, which
Mhm.
requires some animal products.
And so like I actually have two things like I want to add on to that. Like first off, like I also feel like it's very important for us like to honor the physical component like to where I'm existence like as well. Like even like when it comes to like our healing process, I fully believe like our minds like, have to be the most like powerful thing like out there. But like having said that, I wouldn't say it's like disregard our physical component like my physical nature as well. Like like this actually comes back like it's like a whole nother topic like when it comes like to the ideas like behind German new medicine.
Oh,
Yeah. I'm so like I actually feel like the exact same way. It's definitely very important like to like honor our spiritual component. I mean what like German new medicine like shows us is that like the mind like is like incredibly powerful. Like but, like having said it, like the piece like German medicine like doesn't like get into like which I think like, is like totally wrong. Like it's like German medicine like will never touch the toxins like as well as like the also like the equally ultra important like physical like reality to our nature like so like my just feel like no matter how strong your mind is like there's still like always gonna be physical things like can still like affect us whether they be toxins like whether they be toxic food. I mean so like a lot of people like might feel like these days like I'm almost like giving the mind like ultra importance like which I agree with them but then like in the same breath like they're almost like disregarding the physical component like to a reality also like as like both of us like I've encountered like plenty of people like out there like who basically want to tell you that the like toxins don't affect us and like toxic food doesn't affect us and
right.
and as like we both know like that's like complete like nonsense. Like I mean like Mike actually tell you this like from like personal experience. I've honestly tried to go about like healing just by like making my mind like as strong as possible. But like I'm pretty sure you actually once said that like when our bodies like and our minds like are so like filled like with these toxins, you actually can't even like reach.
The states of consciousness.
Yeah. So like it actually becomes like impossible to fully reach the depths of the mind.
Yeah, calcification of the pineal gland.
Yeah, 1,000%.
Yeah,
Like so, like I fully agree. It is like so important like to work on the mind, but you can't do that like at the expense of working on like the physical component of us like as well.
right, right. Well, even more important than that, the truly horrific thing about German new medicine for me
Mm,
is that it actually it's saying that the mind is just part of the body, and it throws away the spiritual aspect. So when
Right.
we talk about the idea of mind over body, we're talking about a very spiritual thing. You can overcome anything. You can elevate yourself
Mm.
beyond any challenge, and even above that of the toxins, etc. But this is going beyond that. Like German New Medicine is actually trying to look at us and look at mind as only a machine. But what they're only seeing is just the symptom,
Right.
the symptom, and it's irrelevant. And
Yeah.
so, for example, German New Medicine cannot see any of the other. It can't see any of the other energies, any of these other what we might call scalar energies or chi
Mm.
or ki.
Mm.
And these are the things, for example, that all of the traditional techniques, well, and things like the emotion code
Right.
used to go in and
Mm.
pull out. Now, German New Medicine actually has no solution.
Right. Right.
It,
Yeah. Yeah. Like
it's just
Jimmy
showing you
Madison,
this is the problem. Change your mind. Right?
yeah, like,
Ridiculous.
yeah, Jimmy Madison, like, is basically telling you just like change your mind, but like, it's nothing to do with like any of the other like factors, like, like actually like
Still got to clean up,
involved, like
right?
when it comes to health, like I don't get like why these people like seem to be falling for like the whole Jimmy Madison like zealotry like that comes from
Then
there.
people fall for scams all the time.
Yeah, that's
Now,
true.
in fairness to German New Medicine,
Mm-hmm.
the originator, well, you've seen, I have a
Dr.
video, a
Hammer.
hugely long video
Right,
on this. Now, his intent was not bad because
right.
what he understood was that people needed counseling.
Mm-hmm.
The solution was this long term and to be supported by a network of counseling and your family. So basically, this was this was kind of mainstream medicine. He
Mm-hmm.
was within that arena and required the very advanced medical techniques and advanced radiology to be able to see these things.
Mm-hmm.
And then the solution is to send the people over to psychology.
Right.
That's the solution.
Okay.
Professional psychologists, psychiatrists, psychotherapists. That is actually the solution. But what you're seeing now in the modern times is basically a scam. You've got all of these,
Yeah, it's
yeah,
essentially just like turning into like everything like is all about like it's like one issue like you have like with like one piece of your life, and so like therefore like you have to like change your mind, and then everything will get
right.
better magically,
Right.
essentially.
Just change it. Just change it.
Right?
Right. It's
Yeah.
ridiculous. Right.
It is. But so
Yeah.
like, anyways, I'm coming back to some of the diet stuff. Like one other question, like I wanted to ask you, what did you say like are some of the biggest like misconceptions, like when it comes like, to the way like vegans view animal products destroying the world? I'm like, am I also like I also like wanted you to like touch on like the like monocropping actually being more dangerous for like animals, some of them those aspects.
Absolutely. Right. Right. So monocropping, just growing tons of soy and corn
Hmm.
is so much more destructive, right? Because the big agricultural industry destroys everything on the land. They destroy all the small animals, the insects. They destroy the biosphere, right? The microorganisms. They throw everything out of whack. So you have a completely destabilized environment on a large scale. That is not sustainable, right? And raping the soil,
Right.
right? So now you need to use more chemicals. Whereas, so it's completely it's untenable.
Hmm.
You cannot do that in the long term. Whereas Earth evolved with if we're looking at cows, like people love to attack cows,
The whole idea
right?
when it comes to cow parts and
Right.
cars.
It's so ridiculous because you had millions of buffalo that they just covered the lands, right? In the United States, for example. And anywhere you go in the world, you've got the herbivores, and they're always enormous populations, and the predators keep them in check.
Mm-hmm.
And it's such a perfect system because they fertilize the land. And
Right.
they turn the grass into food that we can use or other predators can use or other omnivores can use, right? Or even other scavengers can use, like even right vultures, for example, right? All right, that all those different tiers of creatures, they need the herbivores to convert the grass into usable energy for us.
Right.
And then while they do that, they are seeding the ground, they are fertilizing it, and just, there's the whole cycle of life is perfect. And so the problem with humans is that we came in and we chased away all the predators, right? And so we need to maintain that predatory role, right? And we need to let the herbivores do their job. Now, of course, big business, the confinement animal feeding operations, CAFO, right? It's grotesque,
Yes.
unnatural, abusive, right? Just totally. But we have these regenerative systems, or biodynamic systems, permaculture. We have many different approaches, but they're all holistic, and some of them are just called like holistic management, land management. And they and to do it optimally, the way nature intended, means an enormous variety of animals are involved. And then, since we're going to be pushing out the wolves and the bears and the lions, we'll consume that meat.
We have to be those.
We have to be, right. So the idea of the vegan, kill all the predators, kill all the scavengers, kill all the omnivores, and let us just grow, and then kill the plants so we can eat. Like, plants are sentient also. They have emotions, they respond to music, and so there's so many like ridiculous arguments. Go ahead.
Do you think though, like some of those arguments like are actually because so much of the meat eating that happens like in the US like is actually coming from these unethically raised animals, like, and so like maybe it's possible like when these vegans are like fighting for animal rights, like maybe it's possible like they're always going to be imagining these CAFOs like where the cows like are basically eating their own like poop and stuff like that. Like could that be one of the issues, like maybe if like some people like actually made more of like an effort like to advocate for more ethically raised animals, as well as like more regenerative agriculture, maybe we'd actually be able to like show people like that like eating animals doesn't have to be this it's horrible like thing.
Right.
Man, also like something else like I also went to add to that, like is also humans like are part of our own ecosystem, so like our health matters, and also it almost seems to me like a lot of like anti animal eating people, like vegans or anyone who's like against using animal products, a lot of them their viewpoints are almost like anti-human, like we have to matter too, like especially because like without us the whole ecosystem like it falls apart.
Right, exactly. You've got to be, it's like you can't be anti-human. You've got to realize that that's more than 99% of the population is never even going to attempt to be vegan. That's not going to happen. So you're just waging a war against your own species. And it's not productive. So as you mentioned, if someone really cares about animals, if you want to stop big agriculture and you want to stop those practices, you support the good guys.
Right.
That's how you do it. You support the small farms, and you can't tell them, I'm only going to support you if you don't have animals. Well, then that's not a good farm.
Right. And then also like, going along those same lines, don't all these like monocropping like operations, like aren't those like also like the same ones who use the pesticides, herbicides, GMOs, so like all that stuff like isn't any better for the planet, like man, like it's not any better for the animals, like it's actually dangerous to them, like as a result like all those practices like more like dangerous like for us as well, right?
Right, exactly. So again a huge domino effect where you've got
Mm-hmm.
all of these terrible things that are going on, the GMO corn and like because they want their fake meat, for
Right.
example. Like look at the industries that have been spawned, and not only is it just all those chemicals and fillers and fake flavorings and things, but then the entire processing of it,
Mm-hmm.
right? So these factories that all of that energy and manpower and real estate that is used to create fake food.
Mm-hmm.
It's horrific,
Yeah, I mean,
right?
it's like
Yeah,
all those practices and are actually the bad things and the like leading to more pollution.
right.
Are actually bad for our planet. As opposed to these natural agricultural practices that have been used for
Right.
thousands of years. Have actually led to better health, better health for us.
Mm-hmm.
As a result, it's better health for the animals for the plant life as well. All these modern practices, whether it be spraying with all these chemicals, whether it be GMOs. All that stuff is being controlled by all these evil people. These people are actually the worst polluters out there,
Yeah.
they're the ones who are trying to convince you they actually care about the planet, and they actually want everyone to be healthy, but as we know, it's not actually the case.
It's a scam, right? It's an
Yeah,
absolute scam.
yeah. It's a
Yeah.
complete
It's
scam.
incredible the way this is why, right? All those big businesses, they promote veganism because it's
Right.
good for their bottom line.
Mm-hmm.
It's good for their right.
Mm-hmm.
You simply don't have people. So you've got every kind of the worst processed food with a vegan label on it. It's
Mm-hmm.
absolutely
Yeah.
ridiculous,
Yeah,
right? It's crazy.
man handles all that food. So when it comes to the processed foods, this isn't me calling out people who are vegans, do everything as naturally as possible, minus the animal products. Even though even though me personally, I believe humans do need some level of animal products in order to fully thrive. I do think even some type of fully natural vegan diet it could be better compare to the standard American diet.
Well, that's an interesting question.
What do you think?
Unfortunately, I would have to say no,
Really?
because the vegan will not live as long as the guy that eats McDonald's.
Really?
Yeah, so if you look at it, you look at people at the stand on the
Mm,
standard American diet, they've been eating this garbage for
right.
70 years. Yeah, they have a short lifespan.
Mm,
But if you've got someone that could actually be vegan for 70 years, no, as far as I know, there is not any record,
um,
not
um,
even a single
um,
example.
it's once again, this is me just playing devil's advocate. Let's just say some vegan out there is eating completely natural whole foods and also this person has this super strong belief doing this diet is actually best for them. This person is getting out in nature and everything else beyond the diet. So it's they have good relationships,
Mhm.
great friends, just a really strong belief system. Do you think that person could semi thrive?
Okay, so there's 2 points there. One, belief trumps everything.
Right. Yeah.
But we have to take that out of the equation partially because it negates the realities of biochemistry
Wait,
and
wait,
what we
wait,
understand.
wait, wait. And this is it's
Right.
would you agree with me? A lot of this comes back to what I was saying before, how even though belief trumps everything, but having said you also can't neglect our physical nature as well.
Right. You have to
Right.
be how you are. Right. Exactly. Because so if that were the case, if the belief were so strong, why are you wasting your time with veganism? Just be a
Right.
breatharian.
Yeah. Yeah.
Be a
Yeah. Yeah.
breatharian. Yeah.
Mhm.
The idea. So right. So there's just no point.
Right.
But there is a second point. Um, if you were actually out in nature, like a gorilla, and just pulling your now gorillas are different from us, but still, if a human wanted to be a vegan and he went and lived like a gorilla, he's actually going to consume a lot of animal product
How
because
so?
there's going to be poop and insects
Mm.
and right, and insects are incredibly nutrient
Mm.
dense. So insects are fantastic. So if you were actually out there doing that, wow, it's possible that you could thrive that way.
Mm-hmm.
Um, with it, but insects are animals too. This is another
Right.
thing that cracks me up. You know, like the
Push for
like the depth, yeah,
insects.
the depths of understanding of a vegan are usually very shallow because
Mm.
it's more of almost like a religious thing, and they just don't want to hurt animals, and they don't realize they're killing more animals by going vegan.
Right. Yeah.
That's the bottom line. So if these people looked, for example, like the Savory Institute and how they reclaim deserts by using holistic farming with animals, right?
Mm.
And they understand how much more nutrient dense animal products are for us. Like a vegetarian can do it. You can be a healthy vegetarian. It's it's a little more difficult. It's always
Eggs.
more difficult. Yeah, eggs and dairy. You know, dairy is an
Right.
enormous variety of
Raw
food.
milk.
Yeah,
Kefir.
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 Right.
Right.
Yeah,
Obviously. Right.
yeah. Honey. Honey
Yeah.
is another huge
Mm.
one, right? So, and there are even other things out there, so, but that's incredible. So, a vegetarian who does it properly, and then also doesn't have the mindset that so they could still support the good, appropriate farming,
Right.
right?
Mm.
That's okay. They can survive because that's the big thing is like, and you talked about this earlier. The vegan is destructive for the world.
Mm.
We need to support practices that support the world,
Mm.
right?
Right.
And right, so we need to promote lifestyles and behaviors that support the world,
So it's like a lot of
right?
that, like with them tying to, with like tying to the idea, like when it comes to like sustainability, right?
Yeah, exactly. Sustainability. Like this is another, and I'll slam on German new medicine again.
Uh,
This is another horrifying thing about it is by saying, look, go eat whatever you want, go eat McDonald's. It's
right.
just all in your head. So that promotes the destruction of our world.
Mm.
It promotes bad
Mm.
lifestyle. It promotes being irresponsible. So as much as I love mind over matter and I want
Right.
everybody to be empowered, I don't want them to sacrifice the world in doing so.
Yeah,
Right?
like
Right.
so much like the idea, like well, like so it's like when it comes to like, so going back to German medicine, like so, maybe could like the main issue like be actually in the way like it's like practice
Well, yes.
as opposed like so like what it's actually designed like to like show us in some way.
Well, it's still so even in its optimal ideal implementation. Number one, nobody's basically allowed to do German new medicine unless they are a medical doctor.
Uh-huh.
That's the first thing, which means you can now throw all the people doing it basically 99%, they belong in jail for medical
Uh-huh.
malpractice.
Uh-huh.
Okay. That's the first thing. That's the guy you must be. Then you must rely on an expert radiologist, not just a normal one, but an experienced expert one that can actually look at those brain scans and interpret them
Right.
correctly.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Then your client gets directed again, like I said, to psychology, right?
Uh-huh.
They need psychotherapy. So it's a very long process. And so even in its best form,
Mm-hmm.
German new medicine is no good, of no use for me because it's it's not very effective. It takes too long.
Right. Man, also like to add on to that, like I would actually say like Germany medicine like is almost like disempowering the individual, like especially because
Yes.
like just like involves like so much like outsourcing, like as opposed to like learning like how to like take care of like your own body. Like, it basically comes down to like, oh I have this new conflict shock, so it's like now it's time for me to search up online like what does this mean or whatever. I mean
Right. How do I
and
remove it? Now I need
uh-huh.
5 years of psychotherapy.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that right. So that's a very good point, right? So it actually is following the same model of medicine by giving you more fear and
Mm,
more stress.
right.
Oh man, you got this thing in your
Uh-huh.
brain. You see that thing in your
Uh-huh.
brain? That's the problem. You got to get
Right.
rid of that. good luck. Right?
I
Yeah,
don't get like, I
right,
don't get like why
right.
it's like why it's been like so like widely accepted like as a thing it's actually more
It,
empowering. It's just like doesn't make sense to me.
yeah, because it makes money for people. Yeah,
right.
like I said, for me, it's just a scam. So,
Yeah.
so as opposed, like, so one reason why I like the emotion code,
Hmm.
I don't go in and then discover and say, oh my God, you have this problem. No, I
Right.
go in. If I find it, it comes out.
Right.
And then you have the result is, hey, this is what we found and it was
Mhm.
removed.
Yeah.
If you
Yeah.
want to go again next
Yeah.
time,
Yeah.
maybe we'll
Yeah.
find
Yeah. Yeah.
and remove
Yeah,
more.
yeah, I'm so, almost like comes back to, like like anyone out there like like points out the problem, but it's just like
Right.
how many people like are actually going to give you a solution to the problem, like
Right.
so you can basically tell anyone like oh your mind is full of issues, but
Right.
it's just what's the actual solution
Right.
to healing them.
Right. Right.
And then also my personal view, like when it comes to German medicine, like it was like I mean, it almost gets like portrayed like as one of these like get rich quick schemes, like especially because like I believe like I actually know this, especially because like I've tried everything out there. I mean, what I've discovered like is that like real true healing like is never gonna happen like overnight. Like it's something
Yeah.
like takes time. Like it takes doing everything the right way consistently like over a long enough time. But like truthfully, no one could like no one could like say to you like oh it's gonna take X amount of days like more X amount of years like for you to get better. Like, there's never gonna be like a magic pill out there like that like
Right.
fixes everything. Like it's all about like being willing to put in enough time like enough effort like like doing all of the little things. I mean like
Right.
using whatever like tools like are like at your disposal and like whichever ones like go in line with like nature. I mean like natural like
Mhm.
practices. I mean like doing that like for long enough. I'm like and that's truthfully the only way like to true healing like as far as like I see it.
Yeah, yeah, I would agree. Absolutely. It's all about the journey. It's all
Yeah.
about the journey. And we can look at it's illness will teach us something. And hopefully for most people, it will guide them back towards a better lifestyle
Mhm.
that makes them more integrated with their world,
Right.
right? We came here to live a life on planet Earth. It's
Hmm.
kind of silly to isolate ourselves in concrete
Hmm.
boxes
Yeah.
and right and just like be completely cut off from everything.
Hmm.
So I mean, I think illness is an amazing opportunity for people to again to get re-engaged in life,
Hmm.
to learn so much about themselves
Hmm.
and the world they're living in, and understanding that we are part of the world.
Right, and like so much as it comes back to like understanding like so like I've actually referenced like plenty of times like since this one guy like first like told this to me like when he was on my podcast. So it's like a lot of this like comes back to like making the obstacle the way. Like it all comes back to like understanding like whether it be an illness like whether it be some type of like injury or whatever it might be like it's not actually there like it's like be avoided but like it's actually put in your path like as this way to help you grow and like level up like even
Yes.
more like and like to help you learn like so like, it's like all these like difficulties like aren't actually meant to be like avoided like they actually meant like to like, go through it and like
Yeah, right.
but like a lot of people like am like trying so hard like to like avoid these things and like they actually end up like more pain and more suffering like when you actually accept these things like as like part of the journey and like when you almost accept them as like happening for a purpose like like leading you
Mhm.
towards your purpose and then like you like transform your whole like perspective like around them I feel.
Yeah, absolutely, 100%. I mean, that's the way to look at life. Anytime catastrophe strikes, even I'll even, to exaggerate the
Mhm.
point, I I just look for opportunity.
Right.
Okay, what am I supposed to learn from this? What is the universe trying to teach me, right? Or
Hmm.
what is life trying to teach
Hmm.
me, right? And there's always something to be learned.
Hmm.
Maybe we can't see it immediately,
Yeah.
but we just need to be patient
Hmm.
and appreciate that opportunity
Hmm.
rather than fear it.
Definitely. Probably one or two more things like I wanted to like talk about with you. So like one of the big topics, like my really thought like would be like very interesting, like for like any of the listeners out there. Like so like I want to talk about like the ideas like when it comes to gluten intolerance, like man, like lactose intolerance, like what misconceptions like there are like around them, like what actually causes them, and also like why do these things seem to be like growing exponentially like in our modern world. I mean, like maybe you can even tie like some of like what Weston A. Price discovered, like when it came to like food preparation being more important, like as opposed
Yes.
to like avoiding like total food groups or whatever.
Right. So, yeah, absolutely. That's a good topic. I actually have an amazing video on wheat.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you remember that. You should watch that again. You'll
Yeah,
love it.
like I definitely remember watching that.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
a really good video. But there's right, there's three, I guess we could say there's three main factors,
Mm-hmm.
right? Maybe I could say a fourth. But one, the gluten itself is not the same. It depends on what kind of wheat you eat,
Mm-hmm.
right? So one of the huge problems is the hybridization and the modern wheat that's used in the US. So when you buy flour
Mm-hmm.
in the US, you don't even know what kind of wheat that came from. It just says wheat, but it's coming from like something we call like red spring wheat or dwarf wheat. Or this is very, very modern. It's been hybridized many times. It's completely different. The chromosomes are very different from the original einkorn wheat, which I
Right.
love, or something, or like the ancient Egyptian wheat, the Khorasan.
Mm-hmm.
So the first thing, the structure of the gluten is totally different. So this is one thing. Like if you go to Italy, for example, they tend to use like the semolina, the durum wheat.
Mm-hmm.
That's an older, it's not hybridized as much. So more people can tolerate more of that gluten. That
Right.
gluten is easier to break down.
Mm-hmm.
So the first thing is the type of wheat. Go
Mm-hmm.
back to the ancient grains, the older grains, that's much easier to digest,
Right.
right? The second thing is you already mentioned is the processing,
Mm-hmm.
meaning not the modern processing, but the
Right.
fermentation, right? Fermenting the wheat
Mm-hmm.
to break it down, the soaking,
Sourdough.
sprouting, fermenting,
Mm-hmm.
right? So those are these natural processes, right? Huge, huge impact on the gluten,
Mm-hmm.
right? And not only the gluten, but there are other things that are in the wheat, right? So
Mm-hmm.
that's huge. And then the third thing, I'm going to mention four, but the third thing, the toxins, the glyphosate,
Right. Yes.
mainly the glyphosate, and there are other toxins too, but the glyphosate is an enormous,
Mm-hmm.
horrendous one.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a huge factor. And then the final fourth factor is that humans are so much weaker now. Our biome, our digestion, the acidity of our
Mm-hmm.
stomach is weaker. So it's the individual, right? The individual is the fourth factor. Because some people can handle it, or some people think they can handle it. They don't
Right.
realize that they're a
Yeah.
wreck,
Yeah, like
right?
something tells me that like a lot of people like claim like to be able like, to handle these modern foods. So like, on the one hand, maybe it's possible like maybe the issues like are gonna catch up to them later on in life.
Right.
But more on the other
Yes.
hand, like they're having symptoms, but like they're just like totally ignoring them.
Right.
And
Right.
then something else, like I'm fully agree with you, like all those factors, are definitely the reason, for all these issues when it comes to gluten, like why people basically like why so many people like are having trouble with like grains and just like digestion in general. And then like one other thing, and then also moving on to lactose intolerance, would you also agree with me the like the issue actually comes down to like pasteurization, like which is like destroying the enzymes like that are needed like
Hmm.
to digest the lactose, and then like on top
Yep.
of that, like you're also like destroying all the nutrients, and and then also the homogenization. Like the issue like isn't actually the foods themselves,
Right.
or even like the nutrients themselves, but like the issue like is actually the processing. And so anyone who's claiming like humans like were actually never meant like to digest milk, like that's actually completely false.
Right.
This issue is like humans are designed like to be able to have raw milk, raw
Yep.
kefir, but like we're not designed like to be able to have pasteurized milk, and because
Right.
of the pasteurization process, like basically destroys like the enzymes that are needed like to break the food down. So then like when you have like enough of like the food that's been like processed like the wrong way for from long enough, like eventually that the food's gonna build up in your digestive system, and like it's gonna cause issues.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's that, like as you mentioned, the pasteurization,
And
homogenization. They're
the toxins also.
yeah, the toxins is huge too. But there's another thing which I even didn't mention, but this is true also for the grains. We're denaturing
Right.
many of these molecules.
Mm-hmm.
So denaturing meaning we are, and like one common process with grains is like cereals, like breakfast cereals and stuff. We are we are extruding, we are putting those, and homogenization is very similar to this. It's exposing extrusion with grains to create some shape or something we want. And homogenation with milk is extreme physical pressure on these food products. And
Mm-hmm.
it will denature them. It will rupture, like homogenization literally ruptures, it bursts the fat globules
Right.
under pressure to make them smaller. And extrusion, again, is like crushing, right? So these things are changing the shapes of molecules. This is very, very important. Like I have another video when I talk about what are known as isomers.
Mm-hmm.
So you can have the same molecule of something, but it has a specific 3D shape. And if you change that shape, your body will likely not recognize it. It will reject it.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll give you an example with vitamin E, right? So vitamin E has like 112 natural isomers, natural shapes that our body can recognize. Some it will use, some it knows to reject. Supplements of vitamin E are unnatural.
Right.
They cannot make all 112, I think, natural isomers, and they make a bunch of artificial ones.
Mm-hmm.
And in the early times, it was fatal.
Really.
They made fatal forms of vitamin E.
Mm-hmm.
And so we still have an issue with this. This is a very big issue in the supplement industry is when you're making synthetic things, you've got to know if the isomer matters.
Mm-hmm.
If it, sometimes it's not relevant. But in this case, as you mentioned, with the dairy, with the grains, we are denaturing things. In addition to the enzymes, even the proteins start to get denatured once you pasteurization, right? Once you go above like 115 degrees Fahrenheit, you start to denature proteins. And now your body doesn't recognize them as natural anymore
Right.
when you get to the higher temperatures. And right now, your supermarket milk is this very high
Right.
temperature, very bad stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Not
But like interestingly enough, tying everything back to the Weston A price topic, like what he discovered though, like was it like when people like stuck to their ancient ways of food preparation, whether it be fermenting, like sourdoughing, drinking raw milk. So like
Yep.
when people like actually stuck to those practices, like and also like another big aspect like, is obviously the toxicity factor, like when it comes to, like modern food, like by sticking to like the ancient practices, like people like weren't having the same like digestive issues that like many of us like have
Right.
today, right?
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. And so, right. And he did discover that many cultures relied heavily on grains.
Mm-hmm.
So, not many, but some of them with no problem, because
Right.
exactly as you said, they knew, right, whether it was in Europe or in Mexico or whatever, they knew to process these grains a certain way,
Mm-hmm.
right? And they were all different, right? They're oats, wheat, corn. They all got to be fermented.
Mm-hmm.
They were handled a certain way, and right, and the cultures were healthy. And if they ate something that and it didn't make them healthy and strong, they died out.
Right.
Right, only the wise cultures survived.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
All right, and so like my final question for you, like, for in this particular podcast, like even though my like I'm a good feeling like we're gonna be doing plenty more podcasts like in the future. But my
For
final
sure.
question from this specific one is there any name diet out there like you would say is good for everyone or no?
No, I would not say that. I would say each person has to be an individual. The best thing is the guidance from the Western Price Foundation. I'll give you one example that everybody might believe is good, a ketogenic diet,
Mm-hmm.
right? Which will be good for most people, but no, because so the Western Price, he found that there was such variation in the macro, meaning, so for example, fat,
Mm-hmm.
the lowest fat diet still had like 35% of calories from fat,
Mm-hmm.
which is, from our modern perspective, that's a
Right.
lot.
Right.
But it went from like 35% up to like over 80%.
Mm-hmm.
That's the window, but that's a huge window, right? A ketogenic diet is going to might push some people too high,
Right.
right? So
Right.
not everybody,
Like especially when it comes like it's the way that like some people out there practice it like in these days it's like it could be, like some people like basically drinking coconut oil and like drinking olive
right?
oil like so
Right.
it's like when it comes like to any of these dietary principles like they're always going to end up being taken too far. I mean like they're always going to be
Right.
there was gonna be a mess with but like himself like I do actually believe that like many of these diets like either like do actually teach us something like something from each one. So like for instance, in the keto diet, like it teaches us like how important fats are. But like having said, if you have only fats, your diet like isn't gonna be good in me either.
Right.
Like your body also like doesn't need glucose like in order to fully thrive. I mean like the carnivore diet like even though I don't believe like the diet itself like is like a good more complete diet. I'm like it shows us like the importance like of like eating meats. I mean
Right.
even the vegan diet like shows like vegetables like fruits and vegetables like are very good for us. And but like I would actually bring it all back to the Weston A price principles like are actually the most important like above all diets that are like out there like because like the Weston A price dietary principles like aren't about like cutting out like any food groups but like they're actually about showing us like the importance of getting all like your nutrients but like it's also about like the importance of food preparation. I mean like following ancestral
Yes.
principles.
Right. And one other thing is it means you fit into the world better.
Right.
That's the other important thing. By following that guidance, you are fitting into the world better, which is better for you in the long run.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's like my absolute favorite guide. There's a one-page guide for following the Western Price diet that I created. That's my favorite one.
Right. Wait,
That's my favorite.
don't you have that like as part of your courses? I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, I have it in my
Yeah.
course.
Yeah.
I use it and I go through my course. And
And,
I of
and
course I
everyone who's
love
listening,
my
everyone who's listening, should go out like and like buy his courses. Like I actually have the link to his courses in the description for all my videos. And it's like for
you
anyone
have an
like
affiliate link, right?
yes, I do.
Yes, good. Right. So
Yes.
get my course through
Yeah,
Jared.
yes, like for anyone like who's interested like in leveling up their health and like taking their knowledge like of like true health like to the next level, like everyone like should honestly buy those courses.
Oh, cool.
I think.
Nice to hear you say that. Thank you.
Hmm.
That's,
So,
you know what? You reminded me of something. I always want to remember to tell people this,
mhm,
even when watching YouTube or also with the course videos,
mhm,
people need to remember they can adjust the speed of the video to make
right,
it go faster or slower.
mhm, right,
Just keep
yeah,
that in mind. The same thing, like YouTube does it, but also
yeah.
on the course.
Oh, really?
Yeah, you can adjust the speed. And
Um,
the reason why I mention it is because in the first section of that course, when I go through diet,
mhm.
I'm going really kind of slow.
Oh,
It's like a
okay,
live seminar type of
right,
thing.
yeah.
And like I find it too slow, so I go through like 1.5 speed.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
That, that's funny.
Just something to keep in
So
mind.
like, do you have any closing thoughts like you went to add into this
Oh,
episode?
um,
Or?
no, I think we did a good job of covering
I
all
think
the
so
different
too.
angles for,
Yeah,
right?
this podcast was like so complete. Like we definitely seems to like cover everything. Like in like tons of detail. I think.
Yeah, it was really good. I mean, we'll probably think of something later that we forgot,
Yeah.
right?
Um,
But it's already like almost 2 hours. So
yeah.
yeah.
All right. Well, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you.
Again, like I absolutely like love this conversation. Like like we'll definitely have to film another one soon.
Definitely, definitely. Yeah, there's so much to talk to. Yeah, thank you for having me.
Yeah,
I appreciate it. It's always fun.
of
And keep up the
course.
good work, man. Just
Thank
keep up
you.
that good work.
Thank you.
Yeah,
I really appreciate that. Like,
yeah.
I always like appreciate speaking to you. Like, it's like always super enlightening for me.
Cool. Well, I'm glad. Well, you're very inspiring for me too. It reminds
Thank
me,
you.
man, I got to do more exercise because
Uh
I
huh.
slack off on the things that I talk about.
Uh huh.
I'm not doing everything the way I should.
Uh huh.
So I'm gonna look even better next year.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Anyways, make sure to subscribe to my channel. Make sure to subscribe to his channel and check out all of our content. Like, and we will catch you guys in the next video. See you guys next time. Peace.